Dress Code and the Perpetuation of Rape Culture from a student's point of view. It's a really long title, but I'll explain it as we go through. One of the most popular arguments in the devaluation of the significance of rape is to ask what the victim was wearing. A violence study on rape done by the Federal Commission on Crime determined that, when asked after the fact, most rapists had no idea what their victim was wearing at the time. The study also found that victims range from between only a few days old and in their 90s. Personally, I have never seen anyone in either of those age groups dress like a body. So what does that information have to do with dress code? How does dress code affect our experience in school and our lives outside of school? Dress code promotes the objectification and sexualization of young bodies, which in turn promotes rape culture and pedophilia. Dress code affects students' self-image and how each individual views his or her place in the world. Dress code also creates distractions in the classroom when students are called out. Now that I've said all that, here's how that works. We start with sexualization. What is that? I know it sounds scandalous, but it's really not. It's actually rather pathetic. Sexualization means to make something sexy that would not normally be considered sexy. For example, the knees of a 7-year-old being labeled distracting is sexualization. So how does that work in schools? How does it tie to dress code? To answer those questions, we must ask another question. Why are students asked to change? Students are asked to change because they are labeled a distraction or inappropriate. This baffles me because when I was 7 years old, I was dress coded for shorts that were 2 inches above my knee. Now, if someone could please explain to me how my knobby 7-year-old knees were distracting at all, I would greatly appreciate it. Not only are knees a scandalous affair, shoulders are too. 14 to 15-year-old girls in our grade are dress coded every day simply because people can see our shoulders. Please tell me how shoulders are distracting. We all have one. If you're distracted by shoulders, you must have a huge problem concentrating because everyone you see and everyone you talk to has two. I think that is enough. I think that's enough on the problem of sexualization. Now for objectification. Objectification is treating a human like an object. It is showing that absolutely no regard to how the person being objectified feels. It is much easier to sexualize someone based on, well, not based on, but if you can disregard someone's feelings, it is much easier to treat them as a sex symbol. That way, you don't have to worry about how your actions make them feel. You get off guilt-free. It's excellent, right? Just the other day, I watched another girl be dress coded for her shoulders. When she walked into class, I glanced at her outfit and appreciated her style and self-confidence in her clothes. I didn't notice her shoulders until she was sent to the office for violating dress code. When I was 7 and dress coded for my knobby knees, I was embarrassed beyond belief. I had never been in trouble before, not for anything. Here I was, called up in front of the class and told, in front of the class, don't ever wear these clothes again. I was entirely humiliated, and because of that incident, I have been embarrassed about my legs since then. And since that day, I have worn shorts maybe 100 times. That was 7 years ago. Objectification doesn't take into account the objectified person's feelings, and it can leave a negative mark that will last forever, as it did on me. Earlier, I said that sexualization and objectification through dress code promotes rape culture. Here's how. By objectifying and sexualizing students' bodies through dress code, schools are able to label a student's body a distraction and make them change clothes. By labeling students as the distraction, schools are blaming the student for the gaze and the actions of the onlooker. It is not our fault that we are born with boobs, butts, thighs, shoulders, and knees. We cannot control the observer's gaze. It is not our fault the observer decides to look. We cannot control the observer's thoughts. It is not our fault they decide to sexualize minors and be distracted. By telling students that they must change in order to refrain from being a distraction, schools are teaching students that the only way to avoid rape is by prevention. Making students change teaches students that we need to cover up from harassment instead of speaking out against it, instead of teaching the creeps from the beginning that harassment is wrong. So how does all this affect a student's self-image and their place in society? The clothes students are dress coded for at school are often the fashion in the everyday world, which, believe it or not, is why the students are wearing the clothes in the first place. For example, ripped jeans, girls' athletic shorts, open-shouldered shirts, and spaghetti strap shirts. Some students don't purchase clothes like these because they're at school all the time and won't be able to wear the clothes, even though they are the fashion. Because humans see the need to fit in with what is popular at the time, this leaves students to feel isolated from the world around them. They don't know where they fit in, and it leaves them with a bothersome sense of uncertainty and doubt. Some students carry the sense of uncertainty into the summer with them, where they feel persecuted for wearing clothes that are within their rights to wear, such as ripped jeans, athletic shorts, open-shouldered shirts, and spaghetti strap shirts. Whenever these students choose to wear the clothes that are inappropriate for school in the summer, they're constantly jumpy because they're waiting to be called out, even though they won't be. This makes summer, which is supposed to be a fun time where students can wear the clothes they want to, clothes that keep them cool so we all don't die of heat stroke because, it's Arkansas. It makes them feel persecuted for wearing the clothes they want to because they're constantly afraid of being called out and told to change, even though that doesn't happen in the real world. Now, my final point is dress code creates distractions in the classroom. Not because we can see each other's knees. I don't find that distracting at all. When a student is called out of class to change, several things happen. All concentration in the other students is lost while they begin a discussion about the strict, unevenly applied dress code. The student that has been called out of class is now losing learning time by spending time in the bathroom changing, or sitting in the office waiting for a relative to bring them new clothes. In some cases, the student is even checked out and taken home so that they can change, which not only decreases their already shrinking amounts of class time, but hurts their attendance too. Calling out a student's clothes also affects the relationship between the students and the teacher. At the best of times, students are bitter about the unevenly applied, ridiculously constraining dress code. When a teacher calls out a student based on their attire, a rift is created between the teacher and students. By a rift, I mean an association of years' worth of bitter experience based on the dress code with the teacher. This association destroys respect for and cooperation with the teacher from the students. In some classrooms, the rift is already there, and this simply exaggerates the problem. Once this rift is created and or exaggerated, it is virtually unhealable. Based on the report I've just given, you probably expect that my solution to the above problem is the abolition of dress code. Not quite. I propose a change in dress code. Instead of requiring knee-length shorts, which are notoriously hard to find in girl styles and sizes, I adamantly request that 7-inch athletic shorts should be allowed instead, such as the ones viewed. That would negate the problem of showing skin above our knees. For ripped jeans, if the holes are any higher than where the 7-inch athletic shorts would hit on the legs, then students should simply be required to put on a pair of athletic shorts underneath them and not change pants. For open-shouldered and spaghetti strap shirts, those should simply be allowed. I don't think any of us have a problem with seeing each other's shoulders. Now, for muscle shirts, that's a little bit of a different thing, because if I can see your chest, I'm sorry guys, but that's kind of annoying, just saying. So if you have holes that are bigger than 4 inches from here, I think those shouldn't be allowed. Now, not only do I suggest a change in dress code, I suggest a change in attitude. From the beginning, we need to be teaching students and children that they need to put in the concentration to not be distracted, instead of telling them that they are the distraction. Now, this process will start at an early age and take much longer to implement in our society than a change in dress code in our school. Please join me in changing our social expectations.